everybody, I'm Hob.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And you're watching
Dutch and Dragons.
And this is the 4th episode of our 12 weeks of adventure. And that brings us to Warlocks.
Ta-da! So, on the 4th week of the adventure, my DM gave to me 4 Warlocks Pacting, 3 Rangers Tracking, 2 Wizards Learning, and a Druid trying to talk to the trees.
That was much better than last time.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm working on it.
So today in this episode, we're talking about Warlocks and the character class of Warlock, which we don't really know a lot about.
Yeah, so to be honest, I've only ever played a Warlock one time.
And I've not played one at all, and I think it's just because I haven't had the opportunity. We have a player in our game who played one for quite a while, but that didn't really give us an opportunity to kind of understand the Warlock as deeply as some of the other character classes.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit about what we like, but we might not go into as heavy as some of the other classes, simply because we don't know the Warlock very well. Sorry, Warlock. You don't come up in our games often.
I do know one thing.
Mm.
I do know one thing.
What's that?
They always cast Eldritch Blast.
So if you want to go with the most useful spell, I guess it's Eldritch Blast.
Right. So we're gonna get right to the bottom of this thing. The most useful spell or ability, Eldritch Blast.
Apparently so.
And actually, I sort of know why that's the case.
Okay, why is that the case?
So Warlocks have a very, very limited scope of spells and abilities available to them, and the go-to utility combat spell for the Warlock is only Eldritch Blast. They have other spells, but it's literally a cantrip level spell for them, so they just can spam it out perpetually.
Oh, dude, if you could just
and so there are jokes about it.
I would just be spamming.
I mean, there are jokes about it all over the place. I mean, it's like a wizard throwing magic missile. I mean, right?
Magic missile. Okay, yeah.
Same level of thing, except magic missile
Eldritch
is a level
Blast.
1 spell, but Eldritch Blast, it's just perpetual.
Do
So what do we like the most about the Warlock?
Okay, so the reason that I find I want to play the Warlock is I kind of like this idea that it's not just of the patron. I think the patron's an interesting idea. I really loved how our player kind of brought his patron in. He basically had a voodoo doll that walked around and followed him and talked to him. It was great. So
the thing that I really like about the Warlock, and I agree, is the concept of the patron. I think it gets left on the table sometimes a little bit, and I think and I like it because it's a role-playing mechanic that allows you, without the influence of a deity, but with a deific type power, it allows you as the game master and the player to influence the game decisions of the character in a really interesting way, because say for example the Warlock is traveling with the party, and the party discovers they've gone to this dungeon, this ancient ruin, and they've delved into it, and it turns out that they've actually gotten here because the Warlock's patron knows that there's something here that it wants access to.
Okay.
And so the heroes, the party, go in thinking that they're clearing out this dungeon for, great and mighty and, noble purposes, and the reality is the Warlock's patron just wants some magical bauble that's there.
It's a magical bauble. It just wants a Christmas tree decoration.
Right?
That's all.
I mean, it's after something very specific, or it can be little things like one of the examples that they mention in the book is little favors that are maybe outside of gameplay, but maybe they influence the game without the players even realizing it. You're setting up a much longer reaching event, which could put the Warlock in contention with their patron, maybe at cross purposes, and they don't even realize it.
Interesting.
In our game, when our player had decided that he wanted to play a Warlock, I sat down and I put some thought into it, and I kind of talked to him about what sorts of things he was interested in, and I came up with a patron for him that was sort of almost a voodoo a voodoo-esque kind of deity without some of the attachments of the voodoo religion, but this deity that their goals, they were very spider based. They were and their goals were not always noble, and it showed in the things that the familiar would encourage the player character to do.
That's true. Thomas.
Yes, Thomas.
Thomas,
the voodoo, the walking, talking voodoo doll. That was
actually a little bit creepy.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit creepy. So I think that there's a lot of role play opportunity in the Warlock, and I think that it unfortunately gets left on the table a lot of the times. It just gets kind of sidelined and left out.
I agree.
I've gone on a bit of a tirade.
Yeah, just a little bit of a tangent.
Biggest misconceptions. Do we have any misconceptions?
That the Warlock has to be evil.
True.
I don't know why, but that just sort of comes up, that the Warlock is going to be evil. It's made a pact with the devil, it's evil.
I think that the implication is in the name of the character class, really. Especially if, like, you ever watched old, like, 80s, 90s horror flicks.
Oh, yeah, the Warlock.
The Warlock horror film series.
They're always bad.
And most often the representation of the Warlock in culture is as an evil influence, not as a force of good, as it were.
Or a force of
or a force of righteousness.
Or force of anything other than evil.
Favorite subclass?
I don't know.
I don't.
I mean, to be honest, like, aren't the subclasses are the patrons, really.
So you have a few different pacts. There's Pact of the Tome, Pact of the Chain, and I don't remember what the other ones are. There's, there are types of patrons, and then there's...
the pact, so there's... here we go.
Yeah, so Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Tome, and that's really kind of it.
Oh, that's it. Pact of the Chain, Pact of the Blade, and Pact of the Tome. I think when I played, I could have sworn that I did Pact of the Chain. Yeah, I did. It was all right. We don't have a favorite subclass, honestly, obviously, because we're not, like... We haven't played this extensively, but but from looking at this, Pact of the Blade is basically you can call forth weapons. That's kind of cool.
Wait, so subdimensional weapon pocket?
You can use your action to create a packed weapon in your empty hand. You choose the form that this melee weapon takes each time you create it. You are proficient with it, and while you wield it, the weapon counts as magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage.
Dude, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
There's a lot of coolness factor there.
The Pact of the Chain, you learn the Find Familiar spell and cast it as a ritual. The spell does not count against the number of spells you have. While you cast this spell, you can choose one of the normal forms for your familiar, one of the following special forms. So this is the one where you have a familiar. I'm pretty sure that's the one that...
That's the one that... Well, I think we sort of fudged things a little bit. I think he was actually Pact of the Tome.
Was he?
Yeah.
Your patron gives you a grimoire called Book of Shadows. How charmed. When you gain this feature, choose 3 cantrips from any class's spell list. While the book is on your person, you can cast those cantrips at will, and they are not considered warlock spells. That sounds fun. I love cantrips. Just as an FYI, I have like this weird obsession with cantrips, and I cast them all the time. So yeah, Pact of the Tome. I want to do this sometime.
Okay.
Learn a little more about warlocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's just weird that in all of our time as DMs.
Well, I think we've only ever had one
One
person
player
really actually
play
play
a
warlock, and so it's sort of glided under the radar for us for the most part.
And I don't know if that's just like the people
that's not entirely
or...
true. One of our players played a warlock as a handoff character, but I don't think it never really carried as...
No.
It didn't really carry in the same way, and it was a very short, kind of one-shotty adventure.
Yeah, so it doesn't really count. But our players just are not prone to warlocks.
True story.
I don't know.
Favorite race for this class? Don't have one. Never played it.
I know. I was like,
I'd have to sit and play through all of them.
I think though, like, I could see this being really good as a human, for humans, because
I'm gonna go out on a weird tangent. Orc. Half orc.
Ooh, half orc warlock. Ooh, that could be fun.
Orc or half orc. Really steep it kind of in the orc mythology.
Oh, that could be lots of fun.
And it fits really well with that race. After its own fashion. Good class combo for dual classing. I think I'd probably combine it up with Sorcerer just to give it some more versatility.
Give it a little more punch.
Give it just a little bit more punch and versatility. Adding Sorcerer to it, I think, would do that really, really well.
I can see that.
Favorite magic item? Anything that gives it... Oh, actually, no, I know. Staff of Spiders.
Staff of Spiders.
Just because it's really funny.
Like my favorite for Druid, but yeah, Staff of Spiders.
Staff of Spiders would just be a blast. And then we've already covered the most useful ability or spell, which is Eldritch Blast. So that's it for Warlock today. We will try and be better informed about Warlock next time.
Well, I think it's okay for not to know everything.
Some people would argue that we're supposed to know everything because we run the game. I can't remember everything. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not
sorry.
perfect.
I don't want to. Well, and I don't think we don't have players who play them.
Yeah,
we don't play them ourselves.
We just have not had a lot of interaction with the Warlock.
Not a
class,
lot of reason to get to know the Warlock.
So we have unfortunately failed to get to know the Warlock very well.
Poor Warlocks.
But that's what we have for today.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions, comments, or would like to leave us some information, please do so below. If you like what we're doing, click the like button. If you'd like to see more of our videos, click the subscribe button and click the little bell so you get notifications when we post. And other than that, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day.
Have fun storming the castle.